So I know that you're an average like Joe, but you like to listen to a lot of different kinds of music.
Oh yeah.
So like, just give me a little background on that.
So just like a little background is I started as a formal musician a while ago. I
Mm-hmm.
was uh, playing violin and I was in choir for a long time. I was able to sing a lot higher then, but I was in choir and I was playing violin. I, after a while, sort of fell out of orchestra and started to not be as into it for many reasons I won't really get into. But I've held on to choir for a while, and that sort of got me into the classical realm. But I'm not just into that. I've along the way fallen in love with rock, rap, reggae, EDM,
Mm-hmm.
you name it. Pretty much everything, country, including. Um, I I just kind of have like a broad base as far as what I like as far as music. I,
Right.
I really try not to be discriminatory as far as music as much, but there's one genre that I'm kind of particular about that I do find myself a little bit picky, and it's rap. That's the one genre that I really I think it's because I I've listened to it enough to get to this point to where I know what I like, and I know that I'm not the biggest fan of just kind of mumble stuff, but I think that the rhythm itself, the beat can be good because EDM has advanced a really long way
Mm-hmm.
since when rap started. So that kind of stuff is really cool to me, but I just I listen to music for the lyrics, and when those are kind of not there, I kind of fall off a little bit. Other than an EDM, when that's its specific purpose is for it not to be there.
Right. It's just supposed to be music and not audio or any like sort of vocal action.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, hip hop itself is come a long, difficult way.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of bumpy right now. I don't really appreciate much of any of the kind of rap that's coming out. And like
No.
fucking, you have 6ix9ine over here. And did you hear about like what 6ix9ine is doing about the Billboard charts?
No. I to be honest, I like shocked to say as somebody that says that he's a really big music person. I don't really know anybody of who's in rap right now,
Yeah,
other than
so
like the main ones. Like so many people are like Takashi 69 or something. It was like I didn't know any of these people prior to like being told about it like in news stories or something,
yeah,
to be honest.
especially
Like
when he
I
was like snitching and shit.
I never come across it in my like normal path of what I listen to ever.
Yeah,
Like
so what he's doing is he's like complaining about his song not being on number 1 on the Billboard charts. But Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber have a song that's out that is number 1.
mm,
And so he's talking about how they paid for those. They paid for those fucking submissions. He thinks that they're paying Billboard and that they're using like with the Billboard charts is that they'll take songs that have 4 buys per credit card. So let's say I buy a song 5 times on a single credit card. Those
hmm
four those four purchases are not going to count anymore. Um,
mm,
those aren't going to count towards purchasing because I think that it's just buying them to get at the top of the chart. You're trying to get the artist at the top of the charts when that's not really right for anybody.
yeah.
So it's you get 4 purchases on a credit card, and then he's saying that there's people that are buying like 60,000 on one fucking credit card, and he's making all these accusations. Now, do I believe all the accusations? No, I don't believe a fucking word that this kid says anymore. I think he's a fucking idiot. I think that everything
Yeah.
that he's gotten up to this point is his own fucking fault because he acts like he's invincible when he's not. He recently just like posted on Instagram. Him and Snoop Dogg have a beef right now, and he's fucking posting on Instagram Snoop Dogg's sex tape. and then he deleted it because he didn't want to get the backlash of it. But that's against the law. That's against the law. You can't
Yeah.
do that. That's revenge porn, right? What the fuck are you doing?
Also trying to go after Snoop Dogg, one of the greatest hip hop icons of all time.
Yeah, I mean,
Would
I feel like people don't realize like Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg is a G. Like he's real. He's not a
People forget about Snoop Dogg, I feel like, amongst everybody else that's in hip hop, like as far as all time greats, but I don't really think they should. Like realistically, uh I mean, I listen to Snoop Dogg quite frequently. Now,
right,
granted, he's his influence as far as hip hop is pretty widespread,
right.
and his like pop culture presence is also very strong.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, even
he's
this day and age.
he's still around. Like here's the crazy thing. I don't play NHL games anymore. I used to be into hockey and I used to play NHL games, but I don't really anymore. Apparently, he's a guest commentator in it.
Really.
Yes.
I mean,
So
he was a guest
I
commentator in Call of Duty.
yeah, he was a like I you know a couple of friends of mine are big into NHL. They're like super nerdy about it, like I am about basketball. They're into NHL. Don't really care for basketball, but they're playing NHL like I used to play 2K, and so they were playing it, and I heard Snoop Dogg, and it was like so jarring to hear him commentate at all. Like, not that he can't be associated with hockey, but it's
Right,
just like hearing him in something else is just like mind blowing. It's like when you figure out a voice actor in something
right.
is in something else, or like when Mark Hamill is in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh my
When I
God, he
figured that
plays
out,
Ozai.
blew my mind.
Yep.
Blew my mind. No, well, okay. As a, I'll just be honest. I don't think DC gets enough love just as of recently. I think that the movies have kind of been trashed a little bit. As of recent, I've been like maybe a couple, but like the day that I figured out that Luke Skywalker voiced the Joker, it honestly, it just my little world kind of exploded. So like when I figure out that he's in anything, he just kind of like he's so awesome. Like he's super nice, but like realistically, like hearing Snoop Dogg in NHL, that was crazy. Like people forget about how like good his music is, like standalone by himself.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I
think
mean, the whole Doggy Style album is just filled with
iconic.
bangers. Like, yeah. I mean, I can
Gin and
still
Juice,
gin
like
and juice.
that
I can bump it any day of
alone.
the week.
Like I think for me, just a lot of my hip hop like tastes came from one specific game that I think a lot of people got into hip hop off of.
San
And it's
Andreas.
exactly.
Yep.
A
I
lot of
knew it was
people
gonna be
got
San
into hip hop
Andreas.
from San Andreas because that West Coast classics and, you know, it just it took everything that is like your classic essential hip hop and threw it into one like quote radio station and you would listen throughout the game. And you know, now that when you go into GTA 5, you have things like Spotify, right? So you can listen to the song and then immediately add it, which streaming music just completely changed the game. Like as soon as you like
Yeah.
could stream, I feel like people don't know like how big of a deal that is that you were going from CDs. I remember when CDs were a huge thing. I
Yeah.
was
You had to go
buying
buy
those.
the CD.
Can you imagine like buying a CD and then putting it in an actual disc player and then not being able to instantly access things? Like it's just to me like and also VHSs. Like
Oh my God.
VHSs to DVDs to Blu-rays to everything. Like having to be the courteous person and rewinding the VHS. Like
Right. You had to
like
get
people
up
just don't
and go to
think about that.
the VHS. You had to
And then
go to the VHS.
also not being able to pause what you're watching, like running back from making something or whatever from the kitchen and busting your ass and getting back to the couch to
Yep.
watch cartoons or whatever.
Yep.
Like it just there's things that you just don't have anymore that I think it's that like 90s to like 2000s ish blend that like we got as like very late 90s kids. And I think that like you get those kinds of things like just in bits of nostalgia when you're scrolling through Facebook or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I
I
just
mean, it's one of those things where I'll I have a Fire Stick. I have a Fire Stick,
Yeah,
and so like I have access to a lot of shit, and I can just see some random shit. And I saw on Amazon video they have channels that you can have, and on it is Nick Hits, and Nick Hits has like all these different shows from back in the '90s that I remember
oh,
watching
yeah.
in the middle of the night because I would stay up really late during the summer, and it would play back on the '90s
Cartoon
Nickelodeon stuff
Network.
and
Cartoon
Cartoon
Network.
Network.
Oh, Courage the
Every
Cowardly Dog. I swear, when I go back and watch that, I'm like, I'm not. Here's the thing. I don't think I'm as like shocked or traumatized by like what people like say about Courage the Cowardly Dog when they go back and look at it, because I think I've watched so much like dark stuff anyways. It doesn't really bother me at this point.
right.
I think like people just make it a bigger deal than it actually is.
Well, it
And
was a
so
cartoon for kids.
yeah, but and then you just you implement certain elements that like okay, let's say for example, um, when you go back and watch Disney movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am well, I'm not on record for anything Disney related, but I'll say that Hercules is a heavily underrated Disney, like super underrated. Now, like I just wanted to put that out there. But side note, when you watch, see, I do a lot of these like off trail stories, but I'm gonna save it and kind of cut to the chase. When you watch The Little Mermaid, near the end of the movie, the priest, um, well, we'll just say it kind of looks like he has a banana in his pants. Like he's getting a little too excited in the movie, and it's a little odd. Like I don't know what they were doing,
Oh, that's
but
definitely adult humor. That is
but I know what they were doing as far as the purpose of putting it in for them to notice it later. I
right.
think that's really smart to do that. I think as far as like kids, it just completely flies over our heads like when
Yeah,
we're at that
it's
point.
the same thing with video games replayability and rewatchability in shows and movies. Like you go back and you watch a movie and that's exactly what you do. You notice things that you didn't notice previously, or you go back and you play a video game and you notice shit that you didn't notice previously, and that's the beauty of having replayability or rewatchability.
Which
We were talking in our like a little intermission. We were
yeah.
talking about the Dark Knight trilogy
Oh yeah.
and how beautiful it is, and how you can just go back and rewatch it and whatnot. And that's just the beauty behind it, is that that's what the fucking movie does. It's one of those movies where I can watch it and never get bored watching it, just
Yeah.
because of how beautiful it is. The score, the intense scenes of like all
The
three
score, the
movies.
cinematography,
Yeah, everything
the
always
the
had a purpose.
script, the acting, the everything. The
That's that's I
the
want to
art
get into the I want
style,
to get into
the
the Joker a little.
lighting, everything.
I want to get into the Joker a little bit from The Dark Knight. I watched The Dark Knight in 2008, 12 days after it came out
Mm,
on my birthday. Or,
mm,
yeah, give or take 12 days after it came out on my birthday. So, I didn't remember a lot of it. I got the movie, and, like, for Christmas or something like that, I got the whole trilogy. And I watched it. And I watched all three of them in order. But I remember going back again and again to The Dark Knight. The
yeah.
intricacies of the Joker. Now, I'll always say that this is the best Joker of all time, and it's not because of how well Heath Ledger did for acting or any of that. It's how intricate and how smart they made him. They didn't make him just the Joker, who's this like senile asshole, um, narcissist who just doesn't care about anything but himself. He cares about one thing, and that's causing chaos. He has a plan, but the plan itself is never one plan. A lot of what
It's
he
a
does is
series of
just
plans.
right. A lot of what he does is just off the top of the head. Like he just makes things happen.
His plans are kind of like a lack of plans. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's like his thing. It's just like he I think that people should look into the actual term of what anarchy means, but because I don't I think that when I was in like a history class, I just took that's what got me into history is I took this 19th 20th century Mexican history class and we talked about anarchy, and I think that like his chaos is a better description because if you look into what actually anarchy means, like as far as a definition, it doesn't really align with it
Right.
because it's more of like a governmental society thing rather than just like
Creating
craziness.
chaos. Yeah.
Yeah. Chaos is like that's here's the thing. Like if you are as big into Batman and DC as we both are, and I like I when I watch what got me into DC was largely the 1989 Tim Burton Batman movie
Mm-hmm.
when I watched it a long time ago on VHS.
Michael
And
Keaton.
Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, those two really sold me on Batman. And I was initially now my mom grew up with the Adam
TV
West
show.
Batman,
Yeah.
right? Now that it served a different purpose. I'm not a big fan of that because I didn't really grow up with it and it
Right.
doesn't really speak to what Batman is for me.
Right,
It's
which is
just
why you like the
completely
Batman
outside of it.
animated series.
Right. That's why it's so well done. Like in it and the thing is that they hit the nail on the head with the Joker with Mark Hamill. Like, who knew that he was going to be able to do that?
That wasn't.
Now,
Didn't he? Who played the Joker in the Arkham series?
that was also Mark Hamill.
Right. So that's even that. They realized that Mark Hamill was the Joker. He
He's
really
one to
is
one.
the
As far as
Joker in
animation, he's one to
animation.
one.
Right. He's the fucking voice actor for the Joker. Um.
There's one side thing that I want to get out is that in the '89 Batman movie, that Joker's not really the best to me, and it's not because of his look, it's not because of his laugh, it's purely because of his motivation.
Yeah.
And now in that movie, and yes, I know that it sounds a little bit, like it sounds a little nitpicky, not hypocritical. That's not what he's trying to say. It sounds a bit nitpicky, but he's motivated to win over this girl, and that is not at all what he is.
But
He
I think
doesn't
that's
care about anybody.
But I think that's the great thing about the Joker is that the Joker is not one. There's not one like definite Joker. The only
Yeah,
definite Joker is the one that's in the comics. But even then, cinematography has taken the Joker far away from what he was originally.
right.
Excuse me. It's like the the last Batman, the Dark Knight was the pinnacle of what I think the Joker was. I feel like in the
Yeah,
end, that is what the Joker should be. The Joker should be someone who isn't there to create this figment of insanity. He's not insane. Everything that he does is meticulous and he plans it out perfectly.
he's a
I'm
lot
sure.
smarter than people give him credit for. I
Right.
think
I mean, he never actually wanted to know who Batman was. That wasn't his point.
he's
His
the one
point
person that doesn't know in the comics ever.
Right, and he doesn't care. That's the great thing
Yeah,
is he doesn't care. He's all about Batman. He's not about Bruce Wayne. He doesn't care who's behind the mask. He cares about breaking Batman as a symbol,
yeah,
not as a person, not as he's not trying to make Batman insane. He wants people to see that even your most perfect high knight can be broken. Your white knight can be broken, and I can break him. I can break him psychologically to the point where he does something that is not in his character, like kills someone. And that's what he does. Essentially, it's not true. He doesn't actually kill Harvey Dent at the end of the movie. Harvey Dent causes his own death.
yeah.
But he takes the blame for it because he knows that that's what I have to do. So even though Batman beat the Joker and Batman got the Joker arrested and taken care of, the Joker won too because that's exactly what he wanted Batman to do. He wanted him to fail. He wanted him to be taken in as this terrible man who did a terrible thing and he's broken. No one's going to look at him for their faith anymore. So you
Right.
take that Joker, you place it up against Suicide Squad Joker, which I think is fucking horrible. I absolutely
Um,
hated watching him. I watched the movie itself, got very bored watching the movie, so I watched someone do like CinemaSins on it, and the Cinema Wins on it, and I really don't like that Joker. I just never have liked that Joker. He's
Yeah,
too much of a gangster rather than being someone who has lived through pain and can dish it out. It seems like he's more with his own internal pain throughout the movie than actually delivering pain to other people. But then you take that Joker and you compare it to Joker, right? Who directed it?
ooh,
Was it Martin Scorsese?
that was God, what was his name? It's Todd Phillips. That's who directed it.
There you go.
Martin Scorsese was like a producer or someone
Yeah,
associated with the movie, but he didn't direct it. No.
yeah, he had a big part in it, and you can tell by the cinematography that
When
dark
he's walking up the
feeling.
stairs,
Oh
like
man,
just that, like the far away like space shot of him walking up the stairs, or
yep,
it looks like at points it looks like New York, and at points it looks like Chicago. To me, it's Gotham is supposed to be this like
it's a
kind
mixture.
of one-to-one representation of like both of them
Hmm.
at the same time. I thought it looked like at points I was like, man, that's like exactly Chicago. And then
Hmm.
there's like bridges and stuff, and it's like that also kind of looks
And
like New York. And
those stairs are definitely New York, and those projects that he was living in was definitely New York.
yeah, and as like I'll
And the
say that as
grayness, the
somebody,
dullness of the city was definitely New York,
yeah,
and that's what I
oh
feel
man,
like Martin Scorsese does so good, is that he's always placed his shit in New York. It's always been set in New
yeah,
York. You know, Goodfellas
yeah.
as a good example. Taxi Driver, I think, was Martin Scorsese. Was all set in New York, and those are beautiful
Yeah,
movies, great movies. I recommend them to anybody who wants to get into those. Those are very intricate.
yeah.
I obsess over Goodfellas. I think it's an amazing movie.
If you're looking for a Robert De Niro film that you haven't seen, that a lot of people probably haven't, it's called Midnight Run.
Oh,
Um, there's a, it's more of like a side thing, like, but I think that it's not on the level of like Taxi Driver and Goodfellas as far as that. But
right.
if you're
It's not
looking
that
for like,
dark. It's not dark
no,
like that. It's more
it's a buddy
humorous.
cop,
Yeah,
really.
it is.
But it's something that like that's what got me into Robert De Niro was Midnight Run, and I saw him doing that, and that's what I watched that movie like over and over again, and the intro was just incredible.
So
But
perfect for you to say Robert De Niro then. It connects with the Joker because Robert De Niro's in the Joker.
exactly, which
He
was amazing to see him do that.
right, and he didn't seem like he's not a comedian. You know, he's
No,
not. He's a more of a dramatic guy than he is
yeah,
comedy. But to see him try and be a comedian, people try to give it rag on that. Like, why would the fuck would you put Robert De Niro there? And I think it was perfect to put Robert De Niro there because of his aligned work with doing dramatic stuff. This is a very
yeah.
dramatic film. This film got a lot of backlash when it first came out. People are like, you can't show this to kids. It's rated fucking R. All right, it wasn't meant for
Don't take your
kids.
kids to the movie.
Right. I didn't. I just because it's Joker, just because it's DC. This is a different Joker, and we already
It
knew
could
this was going to be a different Joker than anything that we'd seen previously.
this movie honestly could exist completely outside of anything that we've ever seen.
Absolutely.
As
Absolutely.
far as continuity, like it could just exist as its own universe. Like I don't
Absolutely.
want them to try and connect it to like Suicide Squad and the Zack Snyder everything. I don't want them to do that. Just
Nope.
leave it as its own thing. Do not connect it because that universe should exist as its own thing. And
Right.
so then when you see Bruce like part way through the movie and he's like making him smile and everything, I'm not thinking, well, I can't wait till he's Batman to kick his ass. Like, no, I just like appreciating what they're doing with the Joker. And one of the things about Joker that I'll say I was a pretty vocal like critic of the idea initially
Mm-hmm.
to do a Joker movie. I was very much against it, and I'm not going to hold back on that
I
because
remember.
I'm very I'm very much a purist when it comes to like characters. I don't like a lot of I'd say that with I don't
You
know
didn't
like
want to know
a
the
character
backstory. You
I
didn't want to
didn't
know the
want to see
backstory.
him.
Yeah.
I didn't want him to have a name and everything. I just wanted to see I wanted to keep Joker mysterious and I thought that revealing that kind of stuff would ruin it. Now, months later, having seen the movie, did
Oh
it ruin it?
man.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Uh. And
Didn't
you
ruin
can
it at
tell
all.
it's nothing like the Jokers we've seen previously. So you know that this Joker's backstory is not the same as like Heath Ledger's Joker or
The
the
animated series with Mark
'89.
Hamill.
Right. None of them are. They do not have any correlation with one another. This is just the Joker. We wanted to make a movie about the Joker, and we made this. It's about mental illness. He's fucking insane the entire way through. He's schizophrenic. He takes his own beliefs and he meshes it with stories and sees it in his own light. So when he's telling a
Yeah,
story, excuse me, about being on
he's
this
seeing
date,
things.
right? He's not actually on a date, and we see through the movie like the clock is always saying like what 11:11,
Something like that.
right? And the
There's
clock,
little details that directors will put into these things that just kind of blow my mind.
but that's the beauty is that you watch this entire movie and you don't realize that it's just basically what it is. It's the Joker telling the story while he's in Arkham Asylum. He's
Yeah,
just telling the story. And you don't get it because you don't have a narrator throughout the story, right?
no,
But then he's in he's in Arkham Asylum, and that's where the movie
yeah,
ends. But you see the clock, and the clock is saying the same time as it was throughout the movie, and that's because he's just recollecting on everything that happened, and that's why everything just seems so glorious and so wonderful, and there's no wrong that he could possibly do. And even him killing his mom, he's looking at it like it's a great fucking thing. That's because he's fucking insane.
yeah.
It's it was beautiful. It's when we got done watching the movie, I remember we went to see it in theaters. I was just so jaw dropped, like I couldn't explain how much I loved it because it was just
Yeah.
I was so interested in every little thing when obviously at this point we've spoiled a lot of shit. So if you don't want to hear
I'm
anything,
so sorry if you have not seen the movie.
it's your fault if you
Um,
haven't seen the movie. The movie's
but
been out for
honestly,
over a year now.
at this point, the movies that we're talking about have been out for a long time. Like
Yeah,
the Avengers, Dark Knight, whatnot. Like I, I'll say that like at this point, like we're not. This is not going to be like a spoiler-free cast whatsoever. We're
abs-
trying to just like talk about what we're. There's a lot of things that you have to hold back in spoiler-free things, and not really about that because it makes the review suffer and it makes what
yeah,
you're talking about suffer
right.
because you can't really get into full detail of how
Yeah,
you
you can't go
feel
in
about
depth.
it. So we're just going to kind of like rip that band-aid off right now. We're not going to do that
Yeah, just 30
unless
minutes.
we
30
have
minutes
a
into talking
specific.
about shit.
Yeah, we're it's just like not even, well, 30 minutes plus what we've already done.
Yeah,
We're not going to do that because, well, unless we have like a specific, like let's say there's a movie that comes out. Do we want to do like a movie podcast? I'd kind of want to do that.
oh hell
And
yeah.
is it going to, so now for those particular things, I'd say maybe 20 minutes or 10 minutes spoiler free, and then the rest of it just do all full spoilers because
Yeah,
we're just, I, I have to, like, I think you and I, like, we have to be able to talk about it. So, by the way, yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, sorry, but not sorry because you kind of should have seen it at this
at
point.
this point, if
Like,
you
it's
really
been
wanted to
out for,
know, right? If you wanted to know the story, you should have just fucking watched it. I mean,
I
that's your
like,
fault at this
there's,
point.
there's movies that I'll like want to see in theaters and then I don't see them in theaters and then I feel bad, but I know that I did the wrong thing by not seeing it, by not seeing it in theater. Like,
Right.
there's there was a movie called The Nice Guys that came out in 2016 ish, like, and it was in theaters,
I just rewatched
and
that recently too.
oh, it's so good.
It
I
is.
like. I think I need to rewatch it again. Like I didn't see it in theaters, and I knew that I wanted to watch it
Hmm.
because a reviewer, a person that I watch on YouTube, heavily recommended it. He gave it an A plus. So now, does one person's review necessarily mean that I'm going to love it? No. Did I make the smart decision by buying the Blu-ray and then watching the movie? No, but that's that's outside the point. The point
But
is that
but
the
even though you
movie
bought
was
it,
really good.
right? Even though you bought the movie before watching it, even though it wasn't a good decision at the time, it's a good decision now because now you own the movie and you own it in you own it on Vudu, right?
I own it. I
On
own it in
Blu-ray
three
too.
forms:
Oh,
Blu-ray, DVD, and digital because here's the thing. I try and get it at least in Blu-ray and digital because I like to have the physical media to be there. And then when I want to watch it, I'd like to have it digital wise so I can just, I can just be on the couch and, pull it up on my PlayStation,
Right.
and just watch it that way. So I don't really have to like get up and put it in. I know it sounds really lazy, but I promise you it makes your life a lot easier to have both.
It does, because then you also have like I said, you collect the Blu-rays, so you collect the Blu-rays themselves, and I know you have a shelf filled with all of your movies and shit, and it's always wonderful to have that because you know that even
Yeah.
if for some reason you get locked out of your voodoo, which I think is very difficult.
Or if like some sort of thing is happening with the internet or whatever, if something goes wrong with and inhibits my ability to access my digital movies, then I can still watch it. Like there's a lot of movies that I just own physically. Like let's say American Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
I was I was a I at one point considered being a film critic really heavily,
Mm-hmm.
and I was gonna get into film, and that was gonna be my big thing. I've shifted a lot as far as some things, but I still hold on to. I'm heavily into not just superhero movies, but movies in general. I think that movie making is a beautiful way to tell stories, and I think that people should, as much as they can, seek out movies that aren't necessarily maybe the most popular things at the time. Like
Mm-hmm.
look for things that are just artistic. And it's not because it's like you're a hippie kind of thing, it's because you want to support art. And
Right.
so movies like let's say recently I watched this movie called The Way Back, directed by Ben Affleck. And so it was maybe in the beginning stages of the quarantine I went to a theater. Probably not the we were the only people in the theater,
Was
me
it
and
you and
one
your
other
mother?
person. No, it was me and my dad.
You did.
So
Ah,
we
gotcha.
we were the only people in the theater, and we watched it. Now it's a basketball film, big shocker. I love basketball, but it's basically the story of this former basketball player who becomes an alcoholic and then kind of finds his way back to being a person, a functioning person again through coaching this basketball team that he used to be on.
Right.
And so it's like I think that basketball stories are really, powerful because, I'm into the sport itself. But, Ben Affleck is a good director and a good actor. He knows what he's doing. So I think that movies that I'm always going to support the superhero movie. I'm always going to try and support what's popular. But I think also movies that maybe don't get enough love, like just, if you don't get to see it in theaters, just, rent it, like watch it somehow, like just do like something so that we can show that we care about that kind of stuff.
Right. I
It's the
I
same thing
remember.
with video games.
I just watched recently American Gangster, which is about I forget his full name, but I know his first name's Frank. But he was a gangster back in the '60s in Brooklyn, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Brooklyn, and it stars Denzel Washington and a bunch
Mm.
of other cast members that are just really great. It was an amazing movie, absolutely amazing. It
Right.
was directed by Ridley Scott, so the guy who did Alien and Prometheus
An
and everything.
alien. Yep.
Yeah, so he directed it, and it was a fantastic film, absolutely amazing. I read
Yeah.
that pretty much like 99% of the movie is bullshit, but I didn't care because it's not about learning about that. It's about the entertainment factor.
You're experiencing
I
it.
have you watched it or no?
I have not.
Okay, so
But
I recommend that you watch it because it was above all one of the best like gangster-esque movies that I've watched, and I've watched a
right.
lot because I like
Yeah.
that kind of I like that kind of stuff. I
Well,
love the drama that's in there.
everybody has like a genre that they sort of like drift towards.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, I like superhero movies, but I'm also like just like an action adventure like uh buddy cop kind of thing in basketball movies. Like that's just everybody has something that they like. I'm not a big horror person. I recently, like within the past few years, started to like at least watch them,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm never gonna seek out a horror movie over like let's say watching Goodfellas or something. It's just not Like now, I've talked to a bunch of people who are really big into horror, and they love it, and they find things to enjoy about it that I just can't.
Yeah, I can't enjoy a horror film.
I'm like PSA. I'm awful with jump scares in both movies and real life. Like I can't handle it. I like even this is because this is going to sound really bad, but I get scared by my own pencil lead breaking. Like when I have a mechanical pencil and it like snaps and I'm writing something, it like makes me jump a little bit. Now that happens pretty frequently because I write a lot. I don't do it as much anymore because I type on Google Docs, like most colleges do that kind of stuff. But when you're writing and it like breaks, it like scares me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you could probably guess, that does not transfer very well to a genre that's heavily, riddled with them. So
Right.
it just like I try and appreciate the story as much as possible. That's why I really liked The Quiet Place. Now, pure horror fans are going to be like, that's more of a thriller. I really don't care as much about the distinction because
Yeah,
I'm not as big
they
of a
tie
fan of
hand
it.
in hand. Who cares?
They're like pretty similar. I I don't really think that. By the way, John Krasinski was he was a big player on The Office. He directed it, and so his vision for the movie was, I'm going to make this movie an ode to parenthood
Mm-hmm.
and how much a parent is willing to sacrifice for their child. Now, having watched some behind the scenes stuff, and I did a project on it for my film class about the power of silence and how much that can influence a scene.
Yeah.
And so, like it makes everything so much more tense.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of like it amplifies anything that happens.
Yeah.
Is what it really does. And so, like, I I think that like when I'm watching it, having not seen that stuff, would I care about it as much and would I appreciate it as much? No, but that's my like feelings on horror. Is just like I'm not as big into it because I can't really handle the jump scares. And a few people in my life tend to really do that a lot. They don't do it as much anymore to me because they think it's funny. I don't really think it's funny. But regardless, like that's not the point. So I I I don't want to ramble too much on this, like so
Yeah.
because
I
I
mean,
just yeah
it's it's beautiful. It really is. I don't like scary movies particular because I just fucking I don't get scared very easily. I just how do I say this? I just start guessing what's gonna happen in the movie, and then of course it happens. And I'm
you're
like,
kind of numb
oh
to it, I
yeah.
think.
I used to be scared shitless. I remember watching Paranormal Activity when that first came out, and
Yeah,
I went to bed that night and I just didn't sleep. I left my light on in my closet because I was like, dude, this is fucking scary because it said it was based on a true story, and I didn't realize that it's fucking bullshit. It was just to add to the suspense to it.
yeah, yeah,
But it was one of those things where like, holy shit, this shit could happen. And then The Exorcist and watched that one and Annabelle, and I was like, holy shit. And then I fucking started watching like other scary movies, and I was like, oh, okay. So I've watched enough to where now I know what the fuck's gonna happen. I'm not gonna get scared. The suspense isn't there for me. When I start
yeah,
hearing that fucking one note on the violin, I'm just like, all right, there you go. I know it's gonna happen. When it starts getting loud and
yeah,
bassy, there you go. I know someone's gonna die right here. It doesn't scare me. I'll still get jump scared by little things. Like I'll watch
yeah,
a video online of like the whole TikTok thing that's going around where like you flip on the light switch and in the hallway and something's there. Something's
yeah,
not there anymore, but then you turn it off and something's there, and one of them jumped out at you and I got pretty fucking scared. I was like, "Holy shit, like that scared me." I went to do it on Abby and she's like, something's gonna jump out, and I was like, no, and she's like, yeah, it is, and here it jumps out at her, and she's not scared. But we're watching a movie that's not a scary movie at all. It's actually like a comedy, and then I'll just go like, woo, right, like really loud next to her, and she'll get scared as shit, scared shitless. She'll jump up. She's hurt herself from getting scared from me.
it's it's just like it's something that I I have a hard time with, like even in games. Like what
Mm-hmm.
I'll do is I'll like The Last of Us is not it's not really like a horror game.
Oh man, don't
Like
even get me started on that game.
but it's like it I'm just gonna touch on one specific portion
Yeah.
because if we got into the whole game, I'm not gonna like we're not gonna come back and it's gonna last way too long
It's
because
gonna be The Last
it,
of Us.
it's gonna be the last of this podcast confirmed. Like we're not gonna like talk about anything else for a while. So I'm
We'll have to
talking about
dedicate a
one
whole episode to that.
to like specific things like about I don't know. We could just do a whole podcast on like Batman or whatever. But
True.
I could do a whole podcast on Star Wars if you like. I could. Anyways, so back to what we were talking about. So there's this one specific portion where they're in this gigantic hotel,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so Ellie and Joel are on an elevator, and Joel is helping Ellie up to the next floor because they had to like they're making their way through it, and the elevator essentially just drops down to the bottom floor. And Joel, you know, surprised me that he actually lived in that. I know it's a game and he's supposed to live, but you know, he like falls like straight onto this huge metal elevator, and I would. So, anyways, he's in the water, and there's this one part where you have to turn on a generator, and it just attracts.
Oh
Well,
man,
if you've never played the game,
that's your fault.
um, yeah, like so you should have played it at this point if you're at any level interested in video games.
If
So
you're on PlayStation, we'll say that. If you're on the PlayStation platform, you should have played it. If you're on Xbox, I mean, obviously you don't
I'm
care enough to
sorry.
play it.
I'm sorry if you're on Xbox. Like I like Xbox, you know, from when I had it, but I just don't care about Halo or Gears of War anymore.
Yeah.
I just that was the main things that kept me on it, but I just so anyways, so you turn on the generator, and as any like zombie like person would know, it just completely they're not zombies technically, you
Right.
know. So it attracts every one of them to you. It attracts a bloater, it attracts a few clickers and some runners,
Oh,
and so
it'll
they
track two
all.
bloaters if depending on your difficulty.
I only got one because I never put it up that high. And so what I would try and do is I would try and run because there's a little pathway up that's directly to the left of you or to the right of you when you're facing the generator. So I'd try and go up that path and then through and find a way to the door. And then maybe one of the first few times I played it, I realized, oh crap, I need a key and I need to, you know, find it, and I just wouldn't have it. So then, you know, the bloater catches up to you and, you know, kills you. So now, like, you have to, you know, get through the few runners first and then find the key and then turn the generator on and then have them all come after you and then make it through. I think the rest of the game is a piece of cake as far as me not getting scared,
Mm-hmm.
but that specific part, it's more about what I can't see
Right.
than what I can. Because if I see something, like honestly, Pennywise like is not that scary to me when he's in front of me because I like there's not many things that really, you know, terrify me visually looking at them. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not creeped out very much. Like people pass out when they see blood. Like I can look at a lot of stuff and not like I don't I get a little like weird at like eye surgery stuff, but I can handle it, you know. But I think that part when I can't see it and I just hear them scream, it just freaks me out. So that's the one part of the game I have the hardest time getting through.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it, I'm totally fine with. I
I
love the hospital scene at the end. Like,
I was so terrified when I did that originally because I
yeah,
remember I got it for Christmas in 2013, which is around
yeah,
the time that it actually released.
yeah,
And it was one of the scariest fucking moments in my life. I was so terrified when I turned on the generator and they all came at me because I didn't have a headset on. I was fucking playing through my TV and I couldn't hear very well. And of course, they just came out of nowhere and fucking scared the shit out of me and they kept coming and then the bloater came in. I was so
yeah.
terrified by that moment and I died, so I just stopped playing. I just stopped playing altogether.
That's usually what happens to me.
Yeah, I was so like just terrified that I got up and I left. I left the room.
Yeah.
And my parents'
What?
bedroom was open, so I went and talked to them about it. And I was like, "That scared the absolute shit out of me. Like, I'm sure you heard me scream." My dad's like, "Yeah, what the fuck was that?" Because I was so
You know, there's
scared.
those. You know, there's those memes like where you get a text from your dad, and it's like, "Why are you crying so damn loud?"
Yeah,
It's like it's the same thing. It's like, "Why are you screaming so damn loud?" Like it's like because it's scary.
it's
Like
fucking
it's
terrifying.
yeah. There's it's just that's the one part of the game that I like I have to just really trudge through and force myself to do it. That's because I know that the rest of the game and prior is masterpiece, but like I just that's the one part where my side as someone who gets scared easily does not mesh with the gamer that I'm currently trying to be.
Right. And I think that's a perfect place to stop. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously, like we could go on and on about this.
Yes.
And we will. Dylan will be in the next issue of this podcast. But I appreciate anybody who's listening, everybody who is listening. Go ahead and
Yeah, if you've made it this far, like listening to it, like honestly, props because we are awful.
it's been
Like
an hour and
because
a half at this point. We just keep
like
going on.
because that's the thing. It's like when you like I for example, like I just finished up an education class that I was taking because I think down the line I probably want to become a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
because that's I think what I'm sort of drifting towards at least somewhat. Now the subject matter is still kind of being worked out, but I want to be a teacher. I finished up this education class, and I had to do one thing where I had to interview somebody. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't interview a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and basically what I asked the teacher, and I said, my professor. I asked who could I interview, and then I was assigned somebody, and then I talked on the phone. The time limit or like what it was supposed to be was about a half hour.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was set to be. We talked for almost an hour and a half, and the interview like was way too long, but we just kept talking.
It
Like
was it
we
was that it
didn't
was
run
that
out of
girl, right? It
things to
was
do.
the one who I think she lives in California.
No, it's not that one.
Oh, okay.
So this is a totally separate thing. Now there's a girl that I hang out with from my Western Heritage class, which is basically like a comp or literature class.
Mm-hmm.
We were playing Minecraft for like 7 hours. Like so, I just like I, if you've made it this far and you actually listen to it, props because it's I like to ramble. I like to talk about things, and so do you. So like it just kind of like it flows. It's
Mm-hmm.
very easy to go into topics for long.
And get
I
on a tangent about them.
Not to mention I have not once really gotten into Star Wars in this thing, and that's like literally probably my biggest obsession like of all time. And so I haven't mentioned it at all, and it like maybe once. And
Yeah,
so
you
we
mentioned
like
it once with the Clone Wars.
once with the Clone Wars, and that's it. I didn't even talk about the episodes or what I thought about
You
them or
talked
anything.
about Fallen Order.
I talked about Fallen Order for a second. I talked about Mark Hamill being Luke Skywalker, but I did not delve into anything content wise, really.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of applauding myself as far as holding back, as far as that
Able to shut
goes.
up.
Yeah, like honestly, I need somebody to like tap me on the shoulder and be like, "Hey, can you like close your mouth for like 2 seconds because like we need to move on to something." Like that's like my biggest problem is in conversation. I think when I'm talking to other people, I don't really have a problem, but there's some people when they do it to me, it really bothers me, and then
Mm-hmm.
I get a vision of like how that is on the other end.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can you just not keep talking? And you can like, we have to move on. And they just like keep going, and I'm like, I really want to get out of this conversation. Like, but it's not. It's like we both do the same thing, but
Yeah.
we have mutual interests, so it doesn't get that way.
Right. We
So
don't get like tired of it.
That's why I'm planning on doing more of these because I do love talking, but it's like you're talking with people who have mutual interests, and that's why you do these things. You do these things because these are kind of rough times. We need something to kind of get us through it. And I think one of the things that I've been latching onto is entertainment. That's one of the things that has got me through a million things, and I think podcasts are a premier form of that.
Mm-hmm.
Conversations and like the attachments we have to other. I don't mean to get sentimental, but really right now, it's kind of putting things that we care about into perspective.
Right.
Like we hold on to our relationships, and that's what we're attempting to hold on to is through Zoom or Google Hangouts or Discord or
Mm-hmm.
gaming or whatever. We're trying to keep up with the people that we care about in our life, and so that's what is get like just when you're like stressed out about it, like this whole thing, just call somebody that you know and just talk to them about something that you care about. Like it doesn't matter if it's art or if it's like if you're a big Pokemon fan, just nerd about that for a while. I
Mm-hmm.
don't really know that much about Pokemon, to be honest. That's something I got to work on. But just do something to distract yourself. I'm just I think that this whole thing, we're gonna get through it. We're gonna get out on the other side. It's gonna be totally different than how life was before. I don't think we can really reemerge, like fully until a few years pass.
Right.
But we'll get back to it similar. It'll get there, and I think this is where we should probably end it because I'm rambling too much. So this is kind of
But all right, so everybody, thank you for listening in. If you do like it, go ahead and subscribe. You don't have to hit the like button if you didn't like it. Just go ahead and hit the dislike button then. Just
we're
leave us a
encouraging
comment.
you to
Just
show us how you feel.
yeah, just let us know down in the comments if we should keep doing these kind of things. Cause
Or if we need to be quiet,
yeah, if we need to
just
shut the
do
fuck
whatever
up
you
and just
feel.
play music for you guys or some shit. I don't know.
Just like do an ambience mix of Avatar stuff. Would you rather like
Right.
that? So
But thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. This is Anthony and Dylan signing off, and stay beautiful. Bye.